Jerry, yeah, when are we gonna get the year 12 version for tips on how to enter a Russell Group University? Well, guess what, guys? It's right here. So let's jump into the 5 top tips on how to enter a Russell Group University year 12 edition. If you want some prime, guys, you know where to go. You can get cheap prime. Literally, the prices are insane. So go down there and get yours right now. But yeah, I'm gonna have one. Tip number 1 is to start early. Me personally, I attribute the vast majority of my success at A levels from the simple fact that I started studying before year 12 even began. Now I know this sounds boring, but hear me out because this has a lot of benefits. I'm not trying to say lose your social life, don't do anything fun during your holidays, but for the year 11s watching, it could really be so important in the long run for your A-level grades and even for your social life when you go through your year 12 and your year 13. For the year 12s watching, I know it's been 4 years now into the academic year, so it doesn't really make sense to start early. But the way you can incorporate this into your situation is make the use of your holidays. Now again, I'm not trying to say lose your social life, don't have fun in life, but I look at it this way. During the holidays, you have more time to rest, but you also have more time to study. So you can rest more and study more as well, and you can also have more time left over because they're holidays. You don't have obligations to go to school, so you have more time to rest and to study. So it's a win-win in my opinion, at least. That's how I see it. You can adjust it to the way it works for you. For some of you who still don't believe that this works, these are 2 benefits that I found to help me a lot because I started studying for year 12 in like July, August. I started studying. So by the time I got to September, I had already learned up to a third or 2/3 of the content for year 12. So going into lessons, I wasn't really going in to learn. I was just going in to consolidate what I had already learned and really just make friendships and network and have fun at school. So the 2 tips or the 2 benefits that studying early has given me is that it relieved so much pressure when exams came around. For the vast majority of students who start studying when school actually starts in September, exams come around and you're still studying the content that's there. There's nothing wrong with that, but it causes a lot of stress if you're studying while exams are coming up. But if you had already studied in the holidays and you're just revising, you've already consolidated everything, it's in your head, you feel a lot more relaxed. You can focus more on exam papers, on actually revising rather than studying or being stuck behind and having to catch up on work. It just puts so much stress on you. So that's one way that studying early really relieved all of that stress. I didn't feel like I had to catch up on things because I was just revising. I already studied it beforehand. The second way that studying beforehand can help you is it actually improves your social life. This might sound like paradoxical, counterintuitive, whatever, but let me explain. When you study beforehand in the holidays, you make the most of your holidays to study. That means during actual school time, like I said, you're coming into lessons not necessarily to learn too much more. You're just coming in to consolidate your knowledge, revise things that you may not understand fully and ask questions. That's it. Because you've already learned around 95% of the content, you feel very confident because it's all solidified in your mind. So when you go out, when you go home, when you're on your break, when you have free study periods, you can use those times to socialize, to network, to have fun with your friends and do all those things. I definitely made the most of those little pockets of time in school where you can just mess around with your friends. You can do whatever silly things, film TikTok, whatever it is you like doing. Me personally, we just like to play football, 1 bounce, 1 touch outside near the playground. And it might sound silly, but you look back on your schooling experience. If you didn't do little silly things, little fun things like that, you might start questioning, was it really worth it? All that stress, all that trouble, all that pain, and no fun. So you want to make it balanced, and studying early can help you achieve that. Number 2, internalize the basics. Whatever subject you're doing, maths, economics, computer science, English language, English literature, history, geography, this, that, whatever it is, you want to internalize the basics, the fundamental principles so much that you could be underwater with a shark and a crocodile chasing you and you can still recount these basic forms of information. because from year 12 to year 13 it gets complex real quick. So you want to have a deep understanding of the basics because they come up over and over and over again in much more complex topics, and you don't really want to be confused going back and forth because you forgot something. So you have to go back to step one just to learn it before you can then understand a more complex subject. You just want to get it done with in the first place. Continue revising so it stays fresh in your head. So in year 13, when the complex things come, then you can understand and you can approach it with much more confidence. So yeah, internalize those basics as quickly as you can, as well as you can, and don't rush over it because if you rush, you're just gonna forget it easily. Number three is you have to rebrand your mentality around schooling. Every single one watching this who went through A levels or went from GCSEs to another sort of post 16 education has probably heard of the saying, there's a massive gap, there's a big jump, it's so much more difficult. I personally think that jump is mainly due to the difference in students' mentality. When you're going into year 12, into your A levels, I think you really have to figure out what exactly you want to do. Map out some sort of vague plan. You don't have to be an academic person, but you're already there. You're already there in year 12, so you might as well figure out something or somewhere that you can get to with what you're studying. That way you actually have a purpose. Don't just have a I have to study because my teachers tell me so, because it's mandatory. Have a I have to study because of this. I want to get to this. I want to be able to have this. And this is the plan that I have, whether it's university. And like I said, you don't have to be an academic person. Maybe you want to do something that has nothing to do with academics. But in the meantime, you're doing A levels and you probably want to pass it. So even if it's just for those 2 years, figure out some sort of purpose, some sort of meaning that can push you to study. So you're not sort of studying as a grudge, it's something that you actually are motivated to do, and there's a reason and a purpose and a drive behind it. And another important step you have to take when trying to rebrand your mentality is to ignore peer pressure. From year 7 to year 11, I've experienced it myself. I've witnessed it in other people. People will call you a tryhard, a nerd, a blah blah blah. It's all jokes because year 7 to year 11 isn't really that serious. But when you get to year 12, ignore all of that. Ignore all of that peer pressure. Take your studies seriously. You're going to find like-minded people who actually take it seriously. In my sixth form experience, that mentality wasn't really there, and I'm very thankful for that. There wasn't really any, oh my god, that guy is such a sweat. He's such a tryhard. Oh my god, I hate that guy. He's always trying to do the most. Because even me saying it right now, that sounds so silly. Like, how are you criticizing someone, hating on someone who is basically taking pride in their studies and working hard? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So if your sixth form is like that, great. Everyone can collaborate. Everyone understands that they're working hard towards a goal. But even if maybe your sixth form doesn't have the most healthy and progressive and supportive culture, still try to ignore the peer pressure. Just do you, be you, work hard, focus on your goals, and keep moving forward. Because in the long run, on that A-level results day, you're going to look back and you're going to pat yourself on the back because it was worth it, ignoring all those other people who didn't take it seriously or who didn't see the point in focusing. Number 4 is experiment now, not later. What I mean by experiment is figure out what works for you, specifically in terms of studying, but also in other lifestyle changes. If you're someone that already has a revision routine, practice, or method, or some sort of harmony that you're very content with, then that's perfectly fine. This tip is a little bit less applicable to you, so you can go ahead and skip to the next tip. But if you're someone who is still jiggling around trying to find that sweet spot for you, maybe you don't know if you're a morning person, a night person, whether you're a flashcard person, essay person, visual learner, auditory learner, wherever it is, then I encourage you to carry on experimenting early and as quickly as possible so you can find your sweet spot. For me, I started off, for example, studying in the morning because I thought that was best for me. Then I went on to studying in the afternoon. Then I went on to studying late at night, like midnight and past midnight. Then I started studying in the evenings. And then I went to study in the morning again. And that's when I found that, okay, I'm a morning person. I found my sweet spot. This is what works for me. This is what doesn't work for me. And I'm going to stick with this consistently. So sort of have some kind of iteration of that for yourself. Experiment, but do it really quickly because things are going to ramp up. You're only going to get busier and things are going to get more complex. So the earlier you can figure out a consistent and stable pattern that you can follow, the better it is going to be for you and your studies and your sixth form life in general. So that's it for the video, guys. The top 5 tips for year 12 students to maximize your chances of entering a Russell Group university. Make sure you wait. That was only 4 tips, so you have to do the 5th one. But before we get into the 5th tip, I have one tiny piece of information for you. If you're someone who you're constantly looking for mentors, you're constantly looking for inspiration, motivation, you want to learn from people that are in the sector or in the position that you aspire to be in, then the Jerry Exclusive podcast is literally made for you. I've had hours and hours of conversations with amazing people, such intellectually brilliant people, humble people, amazing people who have gone on to experience so much and achieve so much in their professional lives, personal lives, and academic lives. So you know where to go to check out the Jerry Exclusive podcast. This video is only like a tiny fraction of things that you can learn about sixth form. If you want to learn from real people who have gone on to go to Oxford, to Cambridge, to Durham, to all these top unis, bigger unis than mine even, you don't want to miss out. The Jerry Exclusive podcast season 2 is out right now, so check it out. Bonus tip number 5 is determine your comfort zone, or in other words, determine your limit. And what I mean by determining your limit is actually precisely measuring and detecting, or sort of observing how much it takes for you to stretch to the point where you almost break, for you to sort of push outside your comfort zone. And I'll give you a little bit more of an example of this. I'm not trying to say intentionally push yourself and burn yourself out and don't care about your mental health. What I mean is, in my case, I'll give you my example. Let's say I have a set number of weeks. I've determined from months and months of sort of observing myself that in X weeks, if I'm working consistently for every single week in this number of X weeks, I burn out by the last week. Let's say it's 20 weeks. It's not 20 weeks, that's too long, but let's say it's 20 weeks. I know that if I'm working consistently for each week for 20 weeks, I'm gonna burn out in 20 weeks. That way I almost have like a yardstick, a blueprint for my maximum productivity. My maximum productivity is 20 weeks. So when I'm thinking about being more productive, I can either try and use those 20 weeks much more productively, or I can add 1 day to the 20th week, 2 days to the 20th week. So I'm slightly pushing myself to work even harder. And before you know it, I'm working consistently for 21 weeks. Then it's 22 weeks, then 23 weeks, but I'm doing it gradually. That's what I mean by precisely sort of figuring out the edges of your comfort zone and just slightly pushing out, just every now and then, just pushing out. Yours doesn't have to be in terms of weeks. It can be in terms of hours that you study, in terms of words that you write, whatever it is, whatever subject you're doing. Try and figure out a precise sort of limit that you can measure and you can slowly poke against and push against every now and then, just to stretch your limits a little bit. This will help you to be able to withstand the pressure, and when the actual real exam pressurizing times come, you're going to be well attuned, you're going to be well prepared and well ready to really face the pressure. Because if you've been going through the whole year and you don't really know what your limit is, you don't really know if you can handle the pressure, when the pressure actually comes, who knows, you might fumble, and you don't want to do that. So try and figure out your limit, try and push outside of your limit, and over time you're going to look back and you're going to think like, oh, that was so little, I'm doing so much more now, because you've been able to determine your limit and slightly push out of it. Not only does it help you be more resilient, but it also improves your time management, and it helps you to be able to allocate your effort and your time to where you're needed the most. So that's it for the video, guys. Thank you guys for watching so much. I hope this helps you, especially this is 2024. You have your New Year resolutions. I hope this helps you with your resolutions, whether you have academic resolutions or personal resolutions. I hope somehow this video helps you, and most importantly, I hope it helps you to enter our Russell Group University. Before we end the video, I want to ask for a huge favor. If you don't already know, I'm launching a revision guide. This is a revision guide I wrote for GCSE students to be able to smash their exams. I wrote it couple of years ago, and I was sort of procrastinating. I didn't really publish it, but now I'm planning to launch it. And all I'm asking from you is to be able to enter a draw where you can win up to £200 worth of Amazon gift cards. Click the link down below, go to the website, get your free preview copy of the book. It's perfectly free, completely free. Get that free copy and then go back to the website and just leave a harmless review on how you found the book. Once you do that, guys, you'll be entered into a free Amazon gift card draw. And you never know, you might be the one to win that £200. So help me do that, guys, and make sure you check out the description for other links as well. Thank you again for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, do all of that. We're trying to get to 250 subscribers, so help me do that. Let's go.